Welcome to the show. It's exciting. It's an exciting place to be. I hope you're excited.
Personally, never been more excited.
I can see you're riveted. I mean, I know it's an audio medium, but the level of excitement coming off you right now is...
And I think they hear it. They feel it just over the microphone. It's not the kind of excitement you see often. So when they do clock it, they go, "Phew, this is going to be something special."
They're like Reiser delivered.
Yeah, and you've done a lot of these, I'm guessing. Hundreds, maybe.
I'm closing in on it. It's been I pointed out to me, it was almost 4 years I've been doing this now.
And is it fair to say that this feels, even though we've just begun, this will be among the best?
I can tell already.
Exactly, my point.
I judge people, by the way, just so you know. I judge.
I would hope so.
I judge you by what you're wearing.
Uh-huh.
And I love that you have what looks to be a duck decoy over your shoulder.
Just so you know, I'm in a hotel in New York, so this is not even, it's not my duck. But I did have the duck flown in. I had it set dressed. I go, I'm doing Rob Lowe's thing in audio, and I'd like a mallard, if possible. Because I know Rob has an attention to detail that's like no other.
There's no other. I noticed everything. Also the books behind you, I can't quite see what those are, but those are always very revealing, I find.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
If you've been in hotels that have books, have you ever just taken one? Because you go, I'd like to read that, and just swiped it? Does that seem fair?
I haven't done it from hotel rooms, but I've done it on sets a ton.
That's fine. Something they're not going to notice. But like, what set were you on that had a book that you wanted?
A couple of them. I remember there was a great one on Parks and Rec, and I think that was some sort of history book. And then on 911 Lone Star, there was, I think it was the set of like a Ted Kaczynski Unabomber type person.
Well, here
and there was some really obscure, like conspiracy theorist book that, I had to, of course, go down a rabbit hole with.
Well, here's a dilemma I have. I'm going to show you something because I'm on my little iPad is resting. I had to raise it to head level. But in there is this. And this is, and that looks really cool. I'm going, but this is like a $100 coffee table book. I don't think I can take it.
It's of New York. It's is it pictures of New York or artwork of New York?
It's all just tastes of New York, flavors, pictures. It's all photos, but it's cool. But in fact, while it's appealing, I don't want to drag it home. So there's my answer. I'm not going to steal it. Thank you for helping me, Rob.
That's a doorway. That's too big.
Also, there's an ottoman. I had my eye on here. Just a perfect height.
I can't believe that it's taking you 30 years.
Yes.
30, count them, 30. But you're back with a comedy special.
I am a slow and meticulous writer, Rob. A lot of people will say, come on, the joke's ready. No, I'd say I need another decade. I need another 10 years to get this joke perfect.
I understand that comedy school. It's where you want the joke to be so out of style before you tell it.
Yeah, but you know what? I finally got that Jimmy Carter reference really working now. and that ship may have sailed.
Yeah.
But oof, my Iran Contra hunk is really tight.
Yeah. That whole Billy Carter riff, is that still in the body of the show?
I think I had to make a cut there. That didn't fly. I didn't do stand-up for a long time, not by design, but I got busy with other things, and I kind of just year by year didn't get out there. And then when I finally got back 10 years ago or so, it took me a little while to get the muscle. And then I'm sure you've spoken to other comics who will say a similar thing. There's a reluctance to do a special because then once you do, that material is gone. You can't do it. So I think, I don't want to throw this out. And then I think, well, what are you doing? You're smart. You'll write more material. So I finally decided to do it. And you know what also happened? And there's so many specials and so many comics. And I'd be home and I don't watch a lot, but periodically I'll catch somebody and I'll go, oh, that's funny. I just wrote a bit just like that. I'll have to throw mine out. Then I'll see, I go, oh, that's like my thing. And I throw it out. And I thought, well, whoever gets the special out gets to claim that. So I thought I should probably put my flag down. So not that this is great, but this is what I came up with. So
you're worried about joke theft?
No, I'm just worried about some sort of credibility. I don't want to go, he must have got that from watching Ellen's special. No, I was doing that 4 years. I just didn't make a big deal about it. I did it in Cleveland, but nobody knew.
Right.
So there was a little bit of that, of sort of just, it's not really claiming the material. It could sound like I'm writing, great novels here, but it's just, you want to be in the game. I thought, yeah, let me get it out. Also, what's weird is I started as a comic, but I've done stuff for so many years that's not stand-up, that now I go out and people go, wait, the guy from Stranger Things is going to try to be funny? I go, wow, I've been gone a long time. So I sort of needed to reintroduce myself to a wider audience.
I'm super curious about that, because I've always felt like, I remember like doing talk shows, and you'd be on with somebody who was a killer, like Robin Williams or somebody,
Mhm.
and they could literally just say a word, and people would die of laughter. And if you're not known for comedy, and you crush with a joke, sometimes
Right.
people are like, "Is that fun?" I don't know if that's
Yeah,
fun.
if you're
I
supposed
think
to be
it's
fun.
wait a minute. Is he funny? Is that funny?
Yes. Yeah,
It's like
people,
it's
yeah,
an unfair advantage that
it
that
is.
known comedians get. It's like golf. They get a couple strokes on every hole because they're already
It's-
known to be funny. So you come out, people are like, "He's the fucking prick from Alien." I
Wow.
remember that
Yeah.
fucking prick.
Wow.
He was selling out the human race.
Feels a little harsh, but you know what? I
My favorite role of one of my favorite roles of yours ever.
you
Love
say
that
hard,
role.
you say prick, I say misunderstood.
That's right.
But no, but I mean, I think from TV, it's like, okay, I can be comedic, but they didn't know it's a very specific thing to do stand up. So
Mm.
people go, gee, I don't know if I want to go see the guy who did that do stand up. So anyway, so I felt like I needed to sort of claim my. Is it bona fides? Is that
Yes,
bona?
you know what? I have the same struggle with that word.
I'm afraid to
Bona
use it.
fides, bona fides,
I'm
I
not
don't
even.
know.
I'm not even happy with the first part. Even bona, I can't get past
Mm-mm.
there. So the whole phrase is trouble.
You how about just your bones? You made your bones in comedy.
Yes.
You made your bones there.
Thank you. Nicely done. That's a good edit. That's some nice producerial bones
Yeah.
there. But yeah, no, by the way, there's a flip side to that. I remember way back in college, and I was already like a fan of comedy and I loved comedians. And I remember there was a professor in a history class or something, not a particularly funny guy, but he would say something just mildly funny and would get a huge laugh because it was unexpected. Whoa, the
Yes.
history. So I thought, well,
Yes.
yeah, I guess if I call myself a professor, I can get away with shittier jokes. But so it works. It works both ways because comedy stand up is it's the only art form that everybody you're performing for thinks they can do.
Mm.
Nobody watches Celine Dion and go, yeah, I can do that. It's like, no, you can't. Right.
Right.
But a
right.
guy's being funny, you go, yeah, I'm funny. I'm funny too. It's like, well, probably not at the level that guy's doing, but so everybody likes to either has a sense of humor or likes to believe they have a sense of humor. So yes, you have to work extra hard to establish your bona fides.
Could you feel it the first couple times you're back on the road doing your thing? Where people like, oh no, we loved Matt about you. We love, dude. He was great in Whiplash. I've read the book, but like,
Let me tell you something. It's a very false bottom because I hadn't. It's like a trap door. I hadn't done it, and I said, well, there's no other way. You can't just wake up and be good. You got to go to the gym. You got to put in the time, and you got to really put in the elbow grease. So I call up the comedy club that I go to down in Hermosa Beach, and I said, can I come down? And it wasn't advertised. It was like, it was an extra little treat for the audience. Hey, here's a guy. So you walk out and they go, oh, gee, I haven't seen this guy. He's been in his house for 7 years. And so they're clapping and they're happy to see you. And then that dies down in 10 seconds.
Yes, right. Yes.
And they're looking at you as if to say, and what is it you would like to tell us? Yeah, okay, that's the part I don't have figured out yet. But you're happy to see me, right? So that's something. Okay.
Yeah.
But it took a while. I still knew what was funny, but that muscle of writing, of thinking, of performing. It's like, if you play ball and you take 5 years off, you still know where the ball goes.
Yes.
But the muscles aren't triggering. So it was a solid year or more maybe before I felt like I could actually try to have the nerve to sell a ticket and put on a whole show.
how did you record the sets and go back and listen? Like, what was the actual like nuts and
Yeah.
bolts process of it like?
I would videotape it and I would go home and watch it. So it'll be like 5 minutes. And then, in a month or so, you'd have 7 minutes. So I could sit and watch it when I get home. So when I got up to the point of watching and doing an hour, I would come home and go, I can't watch me for an hour. That's a lot of me. That's like, wow, that's a lot of shit in that 1 hour. I don't want to watch the whole thing. But yeah, and then, I try to be meticulous and go, so if I cut out that word, that's going to be funnier.
Yeah.
Make a note, cut that word out. Then you get up on stage and you forget, what did I say I was going to do? And so it changes. Even when you try to be scientific about it, I find it's elusive, which is part of the fun. It's like, oh, it was great yesterday. It didn't work today. Why? Not sure.
Did you find, I mean, obviously the any world is going to change in 30 years, but that said,
Yes.
Obviously comedy, I'm not bringing up a subject that is, that I've uniquely thought about. It's really, really a different comedy world
For
out
sure.
there.
Yeah. But you know what? My experience was actually the exact opposite. I found it hadn't changed at all because I don't do stuff that's, I was never trying to push the envelope or make people uncomfortable or get them to think about that. It's like, I'm just going to tell you some funny shit that happened to me. And if I say it in the right way, you're going to laugh because you go, oh man, that sounds like my house. So I wasn't treading in that kind of territory. So that was never a problem for me. But what I did find and comforting was, I was going up at 60 and I said, it feels exactly the way it did when I went up the first time on audition night. I was 18.
Wow.
The excitement, nervousness, the thrill of a joke where, a line. I drive home going, that line that I worked on today at work. Yeah, this was worth the 2 hours of driving. And I thought, there's not a lot of things that 60 that feel as good as they did when you were 18.
Right.
But stand-up was the only one. And the other thing was, for all the technological advances and whatever, you can't get better at stand-up any other way than just elbow grease. You got to go up every night and slog it out. You can't, there's no app, there's no Photoshop, there's no turbocharge. It's just manual labor. And I found that comforting.
That would be an amazing thing to be able to walk onto a
yes.
Like I wish walking onto a set was like it was when I was 18. That'd be amazing.
Well, why is it different now? You're not still love going on a set?
Well, maybe I need to take 30 years off and then do it. And then I'll be like, everything becomes second nature because it's so in your DNA.
Yeah, it's really, I'm going to get a lot of shit. Why did Rob Lowe take 30 years off? You know what? He did a podcast with Reiser, and as an experiment, he decided, yes, yeah, it is. But are you still not able to summon up the excitement of a new project, a new film, a new crew, and all the things that make walking on a set fun?
I do, but they're different things. Sometimes it's a taste of what it used to be, and it's still exciting, or I wouldn't do it. But what you just described would be amazing because it's like I don't know if it's possible to have total relaxation, open to the muse, while at the same time being nervous and full of that first adrenaline. Like I think, at least for me, it's like a little bit of a sacrifice on one of them. I think because I remember in the old days, it was like I just would be nervous and I would be thinking and wondering, and now I can I just let it happen.
Yeah, but that's part of also the beauty of being older is a lot of the shit that we worried about. Like you learned to just let go. It's not helpful. And also you go, I've done this.
Could you write? I'm going to have a meeting with some people tomorrow night. I'm going to reference it again. I always reference Mad About You. I reference it all the time.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I loved the show.
I'm flattered.
And it was great. And you and Helen, and I love Helen. You guys were amazing together. And it's a great, great, great show. I want to do a show like that. And I wonder where that show lives today.
It's so funny because I was approached to come up with another show to be in by a studio guy that loved Mad About You. I go, well, it was very specific, and I was talking to somebody about this today. One of the things they said, well, how did you guys really got moments that were touching and sad, and how did you think to do that on a sitcom? It's supposed to be funny. And our thing from the very beginning was, yes, it's a comedy. Yes, it's half hour. There's cameras, and we know what that proscenium is what it looks like. But our sort of mission statement was, it's got to look more like real life than a TV show. Mm. Yes, it's a TV show, but the characters don't know they're in a TV show. So they have anything you can do to make it feel more like life will be to your advantage. And invariably, the shit that people remember, even if they don't know it, the things that made them feel comfortable, because it was very, very simple in a way. I mean, not uncomplicated. It was a show about two people, a husband and a wife. And there's a lot of minutia, and there's a lot of little things. And we said from the beginning, it's going to be about the little things. We'll get funny. The laughs will be big. Trust us. But, when I pitched that, I said, and all the execs that I pitched, I said, okay, got it. I said, when you're at a party and you're at some social thing with your wife and you're talking and you're glad handing and you're chatting and you say goodnight, you get into the car. The moment that car door closes, that's the show. Like the minute you go, okay, why would you say that? I didn't know. I thought she was pregnant. She's not pregnant. Oh, well, you didn't tell me. I told you. So yes, the private conversations. So that was our mission statement. Make it feel like the camera's in the back of the car and we don't know it.
I had heard that and I had forgotten it, and thank you for reminding me. It's one of the great pitch ideas of all times, and it also explains, because I've known Helen forever and ever and ever and ever.
Right.
And I remember when she was cast in it, going, Helen it's like she's funny, but like it's a sitcom, and there is a style, right? And what you're describing would be doing away with what is known as you're not holding for laughs on your show because there's no audience.
I remember we did was it that? No, it wasn't Mad About You. It was another. Well, there is an audience. To be honest, when we first did it, I actually wanted to do it as a single cam, and as a sort of boneheaded concession, we actually shot the pilot not twice, maybe once and a half. Where after we shot it on a Friday night for an audience, we came back the next day and we did a couple of single cam. I go, well, now you're just whacking off. But I even though I'm a comedian and I want to get the laughs, it's like, yeah, but I know I don't want to hold for those. I don't want to be so conscious that I'm working for those laughs. And it took me a while to get comfortable with stay in the moment, stay in the scene. But yes, there's 200 people there in the audience. But ultimately, that's not your audience. Your audience is somebody at home who's just looking at the little, angle and the close-up. It's funny, if you ever watch All in the Family recently, and there are close-ups where it's literally their head. There's nothing in the shot, and you just an eyebrow and a lip curl, and you go, I'm totally invested. I don't need production value. I go, look at Archie take a pause. Oh my God.
No one could hold for a laugh like Carol O'Connor. It's
and largely because you knew those characters so well. You go, I know what he's thinking. I know where he's going, and I know what she's going to. And that's what you want, if you want people to come and spend a half hour with you every week or whatever. It's like, okay, I want to be with these people. I want to be in their heads.
I know you did Comiskey Method, a great show. I have lots of friends on that show, and just spent some time with Chuck Lorre. And I was just asking him, is like, where, but Mad About You was in the golden age of the second golden age. The first golden age for me is All in the Family and the sort of Norman Lear era of television. And then there was you, and then slightly, I think, towards the middle of it, towards the end, Friends, and there was so much great Frasier. There was so much great network television comedy, and other than that lineup that I was lucky enough to be a part of Community, Parks and Rec, 30 Rock, The Office, which is just murderer's row. But guess what? Those weren't ever really hits. I don't want to shock anybody.
Yeah.
But nobody ever watched 30 Rock. Well, and it's one of my favorite shows of all time. So my question is, where did the audience go on network television for great, funny stuff?
Well, I just think the number of places you could go grew exponentially. So you have more networks and you have, then all the streamers and you have places. So suddenly, you could have a quote hit show with what 20 years ago would have been, oh, we're going to have to cancel that. You only have 1.2 million. It's like,
yeah.
And my thing has always been, I don't come up with a lot of ideas. I'm not one of these guys who just, here's another idea. It's like, I have one once in a while. And when I do, they're never in my head, well, this will be a huge hit. But it's like, but I'll bet you there's 7 million people who would like this. I didn't think Mad About You was going to be huge. And it wasn't, it wasn't Seinfeld. It wasn't Friends numbers. But I said, just let it run. We're going to get 7, we'll get 8, whatever it is. And then you want something else, go somewhere else. But there were just more choices. And I think, I myself, like I said, I still wrestle with the idea of doing a multicam. And this, I got this invitation to write a show. I go, they really want a multicam. I go, let me just write it. And then how you shoot it, maybe you can shoot it creatively and make it in the format. Because, Mad About You, there was nothing that I ever wanted to do that we couldn't do. We got tender stuff, we got slow stuff, we got funny stuff, we got broad, silly shit. We always say, oh, it's a show about the little things. Then we have Jerry Lewis screaming in your face. Or we'd have, it's a virtual reality, and I was getting a massage from Christy Brinkley. And we go, it's the little things. It's, it's like, that's crazy. But, I always used to talk about, anyway, I don't know. To answer your question, it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I myself had this lovely success with the multicam, but my brain doesn't picture that. I mean, like The Office. I mean, when I picture a comedy, it looks like that. Or right. Modern Family, not the documentary part, but just you don't feel the audience in the studio. There's
no laugh track at all. There's nobody. There's not a.
Oh, right. Duh. Exactly.
I mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, MASH in the beginning, they had, I don't know, first couple of seasons, they would have a laugh track. You go, are they in the mountains in Korea? There are people laughing in the mountains of Korea. Where are these people? And then finally they took it off.
Did they take it off? Because my memory of it was always, here's the thing. I was young when that came out, and when that fucking depressing opening would come on, I was out. I'm sorry. I'm out.
Yeah.
Song about suicide. I was like, no, not for me. Sorry. I know I'm in the minority. I know that's what the kids would call a hot take.
I didn't watch a lot of it, so I can't really answer that accurately. I believe they started with a laugh track and then they took it off. But that trigger that you're talking about, like I'm out, that's becoming a much faster trigger for me on things like the first minute of a movie. You know what? Nope. There's a child in peril. Not watching it. No, that kid's going to get hurt. I'm watching something else. Or there's blood. Or done. Life's too short.
So what you're describing is a legitimate trigger of how it makes you feel. You haven't gotten as judgmental as I clearly have.
I'm hoping to.
Where I have, like, I can watch acting or something and go, nope, out. Sorry, done. Or writing, or like, nope, out.
I do that. Yeah. But, it's because this is what we do. So, yeah, I can go, okay, I can tell the flavor of this. If you're doing that kind of writing on page 1. Also, sometimes reading a script. This is really inside baseball. But I'll read a script and go, if there's a typo on page 1, I go, okay, this guy don't care. And if you sent me a script and you didn't even check the spelling of the city, I don't think you're really paying attention to the details.
If you can't spell Albuquerque,
which I can't, but take a minute, look it up.
I am not doing the thing. But, conversely, I don't sound like, you can sound however you want, but I do not want to sound like the old man yelling at the clouds. When it goes the other way and I see something that blows my mind, I almost want to start crying. Mm-hmm. And as Marlon Brando, I wanted to tear my teeth out. I want to shout to the rafters. And that, my good friend, was Whiplash.
Let me tell you something.
I mean, bro.
So Whiplash was just genius on every level. He made a short. Do you know this? There was a short that he made as a demo.
Yep.
And they sent me that before they sent me a script. And literally what you just said. The opening shot was even better than in the movie. It was opening shot was a snare drum with blood on it and a perspiration dripping onto it, and the drum hits and it splatters. And I went, I'm in. Whatever this is, that's beautifully lit. It was 13 minutes. It was basically the middle scene where he throws, J.K. Simmons throws the chair. And then the demo of this, he made the short to raise money for the movie. And it had J.K. Simmons, but it didn't have Miles Teller as another actor. It was so good that I literally called my agent. I said, why are they making this into a feature? This is great. And it went, that's not the movie. That was just a demo. And by the way, your part, the father, is not even in that. So I said, right. So you go, anyway, it was so good on the opening shot that I said, somebody cares like you. He goes, this is going to be good. And he was right. And that's rare. You rarely, I don't know if I've ever read a script or seen something that's not great or not grabbing me in the beginning that turns out to be great. Maybe it's because I shut it off too quick.
Because the typos.
But it's like, I don't know. I read a lot of books these days and I go, I'm going to give it 100 pages. And my friend goes, 100? You stick with it for 100?
You got to.
Yeah.
If it's a book, you got to give it 100, right?
Yeah, I get my friend. I have a friend who's a publisher. He goes, 25. You give it 20. You know the scene? It sounds like, what was it in The Irishman? The scene with Pacino, and he goes, yeah, and he comes in late. He goes, 10 minutes. You got to be 15 for traffic. I'm allowing for traffic. 10. You come 10. That's what we're doing now.
So what is your okay? So let's establish the Reiser Lowe rule.
Yes,
a book is 100 pages.
I'm becoming flexible. I'm getting a little more impatient. Like I go with 75, but yeah. Also
Let's
because
say
I want to be
75.
able. I want to put it on the pile and say that I finished it. And I don't feel I can say it at 75. So yeah, let's say 100. Let's say 100.
Oh, well, wait, hang on. You've thrown an interesting side conversation in. So, because I've wondered this, when people say, "I've read it,"
yeah,
it doesn't mean they've read the entire book, does it?
Right. Well, it should. But I will answer honest. I go, I started it, never finished. Unless I'm talking to the author, then I just stay away. But a lot of times people will reference a movie and they go, you ever see so-and-so? And when I go, well, I know, and I saw enough. I'm not sure how detailed your question is going to be. So, and sometimes I get wrong. I went, okay, I didn't really see. Go.
How about they say, have you seen whatever the big hit is? But frankly, I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it right here.
Go ahead.
Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I know I loved it.
Without
never seen it. Never seen it. Yeah. But I know I loved it. And I'm not kidding. I know that sounds insane. I know I loved it.
Yeah.
I think, by the way, but I had a special
by the way, there were girls in
relationship.
high school that I never slept with, but I'm sure I loved it in my head.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Why is it any different?
Well, one, I'm not going to see that girl anymore at the party, and it's not going to come up. No. Mm-hmm. But Stranger Things, you can be in things that are great and have fun, but it's not your cup of tea. And so
That's
Stranger
also
Things,
true.
right? So Stranger Things, is not my type of show. And I mean, I've shared this with the Duffer Brothers, but in that case, I was really lucky. My son had told me about it like the minute it came out. So I saw a little of it. And the next day I got a call from the Duffer Brothers want to meet you. Went, oh,
wow. That's that's amazing.
You want me? Yeah. So, and it's funny. I said to my son, when you have kids, you'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
I said, so I would have, even without being in it, I would have watched the first season just to see what all the fuss was about. I wouldn't have necessarily gone back because I get it. It's not my thing. So I was in the second season when I started. So I said to my son, just talk. I said, I would have watched the first season just to see it, but to be honest, I don't know if I would have watched the second season. And my son, without any sense of irony, he was like 16 at the time. He said, yeah, to be honest, Dad, I would have enjoyed season 2 more if you were not in it.
Amazing.
I said, asshole. I use his Hebrew name. Asshole. I can hear you when you say that. So he goes, no, you threw me. You took me out of it. I went, all right. Can your kids watch things you're in? And not hate it?
No. The only things they watch of mine are things that have been pummeled into them by their friends. So, and it's usually the comedies. Like they're not watching like The West Wing.
But they'll be watching Austin
The
Powers.
Tommy Boy, Austin
Yeah.
Powers,
Okay.
it's that kind of stuff. Yeah, apparently there's a guy in Stranger Things that stole his look from me in St. Elmo's Fire, and I've never gotten over it, frankly.
Oh, is that the guy with the hair?
Yeah, the
Joe,
guy with the
yeah.
hello.
Yeah. That's my hair. You can sue him, by the way.
It's
Your
a
Honor,
barrier.
I can prove that that's my hair.
I'm just saying visual theft is a barrier of entry for me.
It's something, it's not right. And you should stand up for your rights.
Okay, we got to talk about Diner. Amazing movie. I remember seeing it I feel like I saw it 3 times in the theater. And Barry Levinson on the beginning of one of the great runs in history, right?
Right? Yeah.
Here's the thing that freaks me out about it. And it's been a while. So Kevin Bacon in it, obviously.
Yes.
But yet he was also in Animal House. And I always struggle with is he 100 years old and hasn't changed? Like, how was he in Animal House?
Animal House was only how many years? 3, 4, 5 years before Diner. And he was very young. But he also, like you, there's a youthfulness about him. We're the same. He's younger than me. So I was 20. He was only like 22, 23 when he did Diner, which is right. We were playing high school kids.
And Mickey Rourke.
It looks different now. He has gone a different way.
He's gone a different route.
Yeah.
Was he? Was Body Heat before or after Diner?
I always try to remember that. I think it was after.
He's so good in it.
He was after. Yeah, it was great.
Look, Mickey's had a great career, but to me, Diner is the one.
But that was in Body Heat. That was one of those things where, every actor can go, that's how you can be memorable. Just be fucking great in your 6 minutes of screen time, or maybe less.
That's right.
But you go, who's that guy? I think that was first. I think he got cast out of that. That's how he got Diner. Did he
have because around that time we were all auditioning for, and I think it's probably why I saw Diner, because there were, it was a young guys ensemble, and we were probably auditioning for or reading The Outsiders.
Right.
So we were all kind of going to school in those movies, and I just remember that Mickey was at that time considered like kind of the reincarnation of James Dean. Was that the vibe on the set, or was he just another one of the actors?
No, he was one step removed. He was a different, very intense kind of guy. But there was, I remember one time, the only time we really hung, we shot in Baltimore. I remember on weekends, sometimes we'd go up to New York. And one time I happened to be taking the train back with him. It was the only time we're chatting, and he was really supportive and helpful. And I had not, that was the first job I ever had. I had never been in anything. Jeez. So, and I had taken an acting class or 2, but I hadn't been in much. And I remember he was just giving me some really smart, savvy, generous pointers. I thought, oh, there's a side of him I didn't see, because he was a rougher around the edges than us. And I don't know that he was hanging out. But it's funny that, those guys, we stayed friends for a little bit, and then we, all diverged and got married. And I recently, gotten to be very close with Danny Stern and Kevin Bacon and Gutenberg as well. And Tim Daly lives on the East Coast. I don't see him much. But it's interesting. We go, gosh, it's 40 plus years. It's a long time.
It's
I mean,
insane.
do you still have connections with the guys that you started with?
It's kind of the same thing. It's, and it's like between getting married, getting sober, that's a big delineator.
How many years are you sober now?
33.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
So, and your life changes when you get married, life changes when you get sober, I live in Santa Barbara, but whenever I see anybody from that era, it's like people, I don't want to say went to war, but how it served with.
Yeah.
Or we're in, it's your fraternity brothers or sisters.
Yeah. I feel that way with my comedy buddies, and even guys that I wasn't tight with, but we were all hanging around at the bar, hoping to get on at 12:30 at night. And it's like, I'll see them, and I haven't seen them, a guy for 8 years, 10 years. Hey, and we'll just do the same running joke from 1981. It's like, wow, that joke is still just in the air, waiting for us to get together to do it. But yeah, and the Diner guys too. I mean, we had I guess a couple of years ago, there was a 40th anniversary screening and event here in LA. And we all went to dinner, Kevin and Tim Daly and Gutenberg and myself. And just being in that, we hadn't been all together, the four of us. And we were just remembering shit like, this crazy extra, and the funny
Amazing.
guy in the hair department. It's like, wow, these memories have not been shaken loose. And it was the first for me, it was my first job, but it was the first big one for all of them. So that you do, as you say, you served together and you went through that training together, that experience together. And you keep that with you. It's really sweet. It makes life rich to take those memories forward.
Do you have any Jim Cameron memories?
And he's such an intense guy. And there's always when people like to talk shit. I never saw anything bad. He was just so clearly dedicated and so clearly knows what he's doing that, like, if he's going to be a little intense, God bless him. Look what he's done. Look what gee, this technology doesn't exist. I'll invent it. Hold on. Like, what? I'll invent the fucking camera that I need. Like,
yeah,
okay.
I've never worked with Jim, but we've spent a lot of time together through various things over the years, because Bill Paxton, who was in the movie with you,
of course,
isn't Aliens where game over, man? I think that's one of Bill's most famous.
Yeah, indelible. And I don't even know if that was in the script, but it was if it was, he certainly put his input on it. But Jim Cameron, I was so surprised and delighted to be invited to that particular party. It's like, I have no business being in this kind of movie.
How did he catch such brilliant casting, though?
Regular freaking casting. I remember I was meeting my wife now, but she had just moved out. We weren't married yet. She had just moved out from the East Coast, and we were renting a house. We were literally moving in the midst of that day, moving. And I got a call. You got to go meet Jim Cameron. And I remember going onto the moving truck to find a box with pants, because I didn't have pants on. That was when I was wearing shorts. I went, I need long pants. No, that's books. And so pulling shit off the moving truck to go down to Fox and meet Jim Cameron. And I read the script, and that was another one on page one. You go, oh, and you knew it was going to be good. Alien was brilliant, the first one, and Terminator was brilliant. So I said, Jim Cameron doing this one, this is going to be great. And then you read it, you go, it was literally breathtaking. I'm like turning pages, go, oh, which is hard to do on page.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember if I auditioned or just chatted with him, but my understanding is that he was just looking for some guy that might camouflage the fact that he's going to be, a corporate weasel. And, so went with somebody that leans towards comedy or towards levity, at least. And I don't know how successful that is, because I think people saw me. I was like the guest star in Star Trek. What's wrong with this picture? This guy don't belong here. He's going to be dead in 22 minutes, this guy. So I don't know how much that worked. But
no, it worked great. It worked. I can tell you it worked great.
Oh, good. Yeah. You know what I was remembering a really interesting acting thing. As the shooting schedule was such that I didn't have any lines for like the first 2 weeks. I was in stuff, but I'd be in the background, and I could have been frustrated, but it was actually a really great education. It's like, what are you doing in the scene if you're not saying something? Especially for me, as a verbal guy, it's like, you're not going to be twirling your mustache.
Right,
you're not gonna be, well, so how do you be basically still, but true? You don't have to be interesting. You don't have to do anything. But what would make sense? I thought, wow, that's challenging exercise. Who was the master of that? Watch Midnight Run and watch Charles Grodin.
Oh, yeah.
Watch him stand still, and you go, the fuck is he doing? He's not doing anything, and he's riveting. It was like, wow. That was a great acting lesson there.
Yeah, the power of stillness is a very, very big deal.
That's your next book. That's your next book, The Power of Stillness.
Particularly on stage.
Yes.
To be able to walk out on stage and stand there.
Well, that takes a lot of muscle control and discipline too.
Yeah, right?
Poof.
How long do you think, all seriously, you could walk up to a mic at in your show and just walk out and look at people. Just not move and just look around for a while. I'll bet you that experience would be unfucking believable. There'd be laughs, there'd be drama, there'd be a whole journey if you could stick it out.
My thing, I just have a rhythm that I walk just because out of whatever nervousness or energy, whatever. And a year or so ago, I pulled a calf muscle. I ripped a calf muscle. I actually had a cast on, but it's like, or a thing on, and I took it off for the show because it looked pathetic, but I couldn't walk. So that was my exercise. I just did the whole show standing there, and it was life changing. I was like, oh, now find the power in the words. Power, actually, you think you're energizing by moving, you're actually distracting.
That's right.
Like it's actually more powerful. And I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't forced to because of my stupid leg. But it was, you're absolutely right. Being still can be the force you need.
You're also an author.
Author.
You're an author. You have 3 or 4 books, I think.
I wrote 3 or 4 books. Yeah, I wrote 3 books and then a little, what do they call it? An Amazon short thing. I just did a book. Are you friends with Mike McDonald up in Santa Barbara?
Oh, thank you. Okay, stop. Okay, thank you. I knew there was okay. So Michael McDonald, I bought his former house in Santa Barbara.
Wow.
And he recorded he had a recording studio in the back of it. I'm a massive fan of his.
Yeah.
How the hell did you guys come to write the book? Is it called What a Fool Believes? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, which he didn't want to do. I said, no, that's got to be the name.
I'm buying
obvious.
I'm buying that in 2 seconds. That sounds amazing. Tell me about that.
So I would like you, I was a big fan of his. I never knew anything about him. And it's like, he's kind of this flies under the radar. He's all about the music and it's not about him putting his personality out there. And so but anyway, so we met just through a fluke. I went to a kind of cool private, like a event at somebody's house. It happened to be down the street from my house. And I walk in and Mike McDonald's playing, like he was the hired entertainment. I thought, this guy in this house is doing very well. That's his soundtrack is Michael McDonald live in his house. Jesus. And so it was a small enough intimate room. I went over, I said, introduced myself. I was a big fan and he knew me. And in a spike of moxie and balls, I said, I live 40 feet away and I play piano. I said, I got a room with 2 pianos. And everybody said, why do you have 2 pianos? I said, in case this ever comes up, would you like to come over and jam? He goes, yeah, man, sure. I went, okay. So we came over, we played for like 3 hours. We were just playing Beatles and Motowns and Doobies and Michael McDonald songs. And we became friends. So, and over the years, I would ask him, this was like 15 years ago, and I would just ask him shit because I never understood his career. Like, how can you be in the Doobie Brothers and Steely Dan? But it's like, you can't play for the Cubs and the Yankees. You got to pick one. So I would ask him this, and I jokingly said, you should write a book so I don't have to call you all the time. He said, I've been approached about it. I don't know if I have a story. I go, you have a story. He said, but I don't know how to write a book. I said, well, I do. I said, guess what? And it was COVID. It was March 2020. I said, we got no jobs. We're not going anywhere. So we just did this. We Zoomed for like a month. And I would ask him shit, just like we're doing. And I would record it, and then I would transcribe it. And we had, suddenly 400 pages of shit. And I would just, it was all his words. And I just put it together in chronological. And then we'd go through it. And it was really interesting for me. I really wanted to read the book. That's the only reason I wanted him to write it. I said, you don't have to put my name on it. I just want to read it. But it was interesting for me to create something or help create something for which I was not the end user. I said, this is you. So anything that and he would say, I don't know if I should say this. I go, say it. And then you'll take it out. We're not live. This is a book. We'll take it. So over, the course on and off, he was touring on and off for a couple of years. It would come together and he would go deeper. And I had to push him a couple of places. Like, some places he was so forthcoming, about his sobriety and his journey with that. He was really, beautifully eloquent and open-hearted. I mean, it's some of the most moving I think the most moving stuff in the book. He talks about it. And he's so modest, he's so, the question I kept trying to dig at and I couldn't because you can't, as I want to go, how the fuck do you sing so well? What is that? It's like saying, Ryan Gosling, how'd you get good looking like that? What's this? Yeah, what do you want? That's just how it happened. So, and I would ask him, like, well, do you do anything? No, you just fucking wake up, you sing in the shower. It sounds like that already. Yeah. So So it was a great experience. And when it was all done, I was really happy. It answered all my questions. And he was happy because he went from, I don't know if I have a story worth telling to, oh, you know what? Now I understand my life. Because he had never really done that, trace his parent. And he talks about his parents and his very specific and poetic, very touching stories all the way. He played with everybody, Quincy Jones, Ray Charles, and everybody.
That's how he got I think he got it's my understanding, you wrote the book, so I'll find out, but that he ended up in the Doobie Brothers because they needed a piano player and he was a prodigy.
Jeff Baxter had played with him in Steely Dan. He got Steely Dan because when he was out here, and he talks about, in the early 70s, you pick up bands and you get a bass player, you get a thing, and you play this party. And he did a date for a rap party, some show, at a Christmas Eve rap party. And a drummer, up-and-coming drummer, Jeff Porcaro, was at the gig. Never met him. And a year later, Jeff says, hey, man, it was Steely Dan, and they need a keyboard player, maybe a backup singer. Would you like to audition? He goes, yeah. He said, when? And Jeff goes, can you get down here now? He goes, fuck me. And so he said, I throw my Wurlitzer into my Pinto, and I drive down. He said, he goes, usually auditions, 2 or 3 songs, they tell you thank you or no thank you. He said, nobody said anything. And then he said, and Walter Becker, Don Fagen, they just keep teaching me songs. He said, after about 6 hours, I guess I'm in the band. Nobody's asking me to leave. And the next day, he's on tour. It's like, so that's how Steely Dan happened. Fucking accident. That a year later leads to Doobies. And then that leads to him becoming Michael McDonald. But Prodigy, he was at 14. At 14, he was in a band of 19 and 20-year-olds, a 13-piece band in St. Louis, where he grew up. Horns and rhythm sections. And we're 14. I was learning to pee standing up. But he was with a 14-piece band. Yeah, he's something, and as nice a guy as there is.
If you have any time and you're on your treadmill or whatever on a walk, I did interviewed Kenny Loggins recently for the podcast, and he was super.
I read Kenny's book.
Yeah, it's a great book and super interesting about Michael, because that's the other thing I think about. We have Steely Dan, we have Doobie Brothers, but then we have everything he did with Kenny, which is insane.
There's collaboration. I sort of pushed them. I said, you got to do a discography. I said, because there's so many things. And there was a period where, and he makes fun of it in the book. He's, where people said, we've had enough of Michael McDonald. Like he's been on everybody's track because like he makes everybody else sound good. Like, oh, what's that behind him? Is it a cloud? No, that's Michael McDonald singing behind you.
That'll do it. Have you seen the famous, you've obviously seen the famous, I think it's SCTV.
Yeah, Rick Moranis.
Moranis doing Michael McDonald. Yes. Running back and forth to the microphone. It's one of the greatest things.
Which I encourage. I said, you gotta acknowledge that in the book, because everybody's gonna go, did he see that? But he has a great sense of humor, and he's sometimes self-deprecating to a fault. And he said, I was maybe going to that well a little too often, but everybody said, would you like come sing with me? And he went, yeah, because he loved, but as like a fan too, he loved getting to work with new singer-songwriters. And he talks about that early period in the 70s, which you and I were too young. You certainly were too young for. But when all these, musicians from all over the world just ended up in L.A., or from the States anyway, would end up in L.A., and they would just work together in these little pickup bands, and they became Toto, and they became Doobies. And it's like, it was happening, and he's singing backup, and he's in this, talks about being in the studio, and there's John Lennon next door working with Phil Spector, and there's Joni Mitchell, there's Elton John.
You are a man of many stories, many different lives. I'm super psyched. The special is November 19th
on wherever you can buy and rent shit. Somebody said, "Where is it? Where can we find your show?" I said, "Al Jazeera." It's not on every channel. It's but yes, it's Life, Death, and Rice Pudding. And then if can I take a moment to plug something else? I don't want to be piggish.
Of course.
But I wrote a movie that I'm in with Colm Meaney, who is a brilliant actor, and it's called The Problem with People. And that's also on iTunes and Amazon and whatever. And that was a movie that I wrote that I've been trying. I was pushing uphill for years to make in Ireland. And it came out really well. So it's a small little indie. So there's nobody pushing it except for me going door to door saying, please go check out this movie because it's really sweet.
I will, and everybody listening will
All right.
as well.
That's all I would ask.
And great, this was fun. I really appreciate it. This
Great fun,
was
Rob.
awesome.
Thank you, man. Let's do it again. What are you doing tomorrow?
We'll do it again.
Tomorrow.
All right. Tomorrow at 3:00. Good.
See you then.
Okay.
All right, brother.